Welcome to English Language Club. This is Jagannath Raju. Today we are going to discuss a beautiful lesson, a short story. God sees the truth but waits. This short story is taken from the War and Peace, a beautiful novel. It was written by Leo Tolstoy. He was born on September 9, 1828 in Russia. He was died on November 20, 1910 at the age of 82 years. Actually, his notable works. There are many books are written by Leo Tolstoy, but his notable works are mainly War and Peace, Anna Karenina, and Death of Ivan Illich. Today, our short story, God Sees the Truth but Waits, is taken from the War and Peace novel. Actually, this story happens in Vladimir. The stories happen in Vladimir. Actually, this is the one of the towns in Russia. So the story happens in Vladimir. The main character is Aksinov. Our hero or protagonist. Actually, Aksinov, there was a young merchant who live in Vladimir. He has a wife named Vanya. His wife name is Vanya. And he decided to sell, actually he was a merchant. He decided to sell their goods to earn money. So during the summer he decided to travel Nizhny Fair. So this is the first part of the lesson, and the second part, when Aksinov met a merchant or met another merchant on this way. The merchant given this lesson, another merchant name is not given this lesson, and they drank. Aksinov and another merchant drank tea together and later went to the same rooms. As he decided to check in an inn. Inn means a restaurant. Lodge and restaurant is called inn. So, and then this is the first part in the setting, and second one, Aksinov went to the Nizhny Fair. On the way, in the third part is on the way he met another merchant, and the fourth part is Aksinov found out the merchant he met the night before has been found murdered. So the last part, the fourth part is another merchant was murdered. So, and the officials accuse Aksinov of killing him since there was a knife with a blood stains in his bag. Actually, this was the flaw in this lesson. Now we are going into the lesson. What is the story? Shall we discuss what is the story of the lesson? Actually, this was a beautiful lesson. Through this lesson, he shows the difference between the temporal things and spiritual things. So, come to the first one. First box. Aksinov lived with his wife and children. He decided to make a trip to the fair. Actually, Ivan Dmitrich Aksinov. The full name is Ivan Dmitrich Aksinov, was a merchant living in Vladimir, a town in Russia. Although Aksinov is a prone drinking, actually was an alcoholic person in the present, but in the old times, before the marriage. But Aksinov is prone to drinking, he is not violent. He did not make any nuisance in the public. So, he is responsible and well liked by people that know him. One day, decided to go to a fair. Already I told you, Nizhny Fair as a business venture. But his wife tried to stop him because she had a bad dream. His wife pleads for him not to go because of a nightmare. Nightmare means a bad dream. She had the previous night in which he had grey hair. Grey hair means old hair. And Aksinov disregards his wife's dream and leaves for the fair. But Aksinov did not hear his wife's words. And he decided to start his journey to the Nizhny Fair. So, on this way, Aksinov meets another merchant on his way, and the two means here Aksinov and another merchant. Already I told you another merchant name is not given in the lesson. So, the two merchants, that means Aksinov and another merchant, decided to travel together. They check into an inn. Inn means, already I told you, inn means a hotel, a restaurant, hotel and a lodge and restaurant. Have a good time drinking, then they retire separately. So Axino wakes early. Axino wakes early in the next morning and to get to the fair and leaves without the other merchant. So he did not wake up the other merchant. He left the merchant and he started his journey alone. So not far down the road, the local police arrested and charged him with murder. So what happened? Then not far down the road, Axino stops and is approached by a few policemen. They explain that the merchant was dead. The another merchant was just murdered and robbed, and then search Axino's bag. So the police find a bloody knife. And despite Axino's claim that he is not murdered. Actually, Axino did any murder. Axino did not do any murder. So Axino pleaded and requested. So, but they did not listen. The police did not listen. After he is sentenced and sent to the Axino, charged him with the murder. So a petition of mercy was turned down and he felt devastated. So then what happened? So he is sentenced and sent to Siberia. Actually, a petition of mercy was he sent a petition to the Tsar. Tsar means the king of Russia. The king of Russia. But the petition of mercy was turned down and he felt devastated. Then he was sent to work in mines of Siberia. He grew old there. So that he was not murderer, but he was sentenced and sent to Siberia. In olden days, like Andaman and Nicobar Islands. In olden days, before independence in India, the freedom fighters were sent to the Siberia, sent to Andaman Nicobar Islands jail, because no one escaped from the jail, because there was a Andaman Nicobar is an island. It was situated middle of the sea, so that's why the freedom fighters or criminals or whatever may be, they sent to the Andaman Nicobar Islands. Like this, in this way, in Russia, the notorious criminals or murderers or killers, whatever may be, they sent to the Siberia. In this way, our hero, protagonist is, the person name is Axino, was sent to the Siberia. So he grew old there. So after this trial flogging, his wife can finally visit him and she sees that Axino's hair has begun to go grey from the stress. So Axino spent 26 years in Siberia. Axino spent 26 years in Siberia. Resigned to this flight, he decided to his life to God. He dedicates his life to God. That means the temporal things. Temporal things means, what is the temporal things? Temporal things nothing but wife, children, house, shops, business. So whatever we can see with the eyes is called temporal things. What we cannot see with our eyes, eternal things. We can't see the God. We can't see the truth. These are the eternal things. These are the spiritual things. Service to the man is a spiritual thing. Service to the humankind is spiritual thing. Service to the animals is spiritual things. So service to the praise of God is the spiritual things. So all temporal things. He left his wife, he left his children, he lost his business, he lost his shops, everything lost. So he believes in the God is the permanent. So that's why he dedicates his life to the God. He becomes a mediator of sorts in the prison, and he is well respected by other prisoners. As also gods. One day some new prisoner. Okay, next, Axino frequently prayed the God. He bought the book, The Lives of the Saints. So he bought the book. The book name is The Lives of the Saints. So Axino was So Axino frequently prayed God. He bought the book The Lives of the Saints. So Axino was respected Aksena was respected by all inmates due to his gentle behavior. One day he met Makar. He is the villain of the lesson. He is the villain of the lesson. So one day the gods noticed, So one day some new prisoners, one of them being Makar Simnoch. Makar Simnoch. Semyonich. Semyon. Makar Simnoch, the full name is. So are transferred to the prison, to the Siberian prison. Actually, after overhearing several conversations, Aksionov is convinced that Makar Simnoch is the man who committed the murder for which he was blamed. Actually, this murder, Makar committed the murder, but the sentence was to the Aksionov. So one day gods noticed that someone has been strewing dirt around the grounds, and they search the prison and find a tunnel. Some prisoners dig the tunnel. So the guards found out there was a tunnel in the prison. So Makar Simnoch, who was digging the hole, after being questioned by the police, Aksionov declared that it was not his place to speak about the matter. But this time, actually Aksionov know the truth. Makar digged the tunnel, but Aksionov did not reveal the truth. So Makar Simnoch approached Aksionov that night and in a terrible state, eventually admitting to Aksionov that it was who robbed and killed the merchant, and he also planned to murder Aksionov but spared him after hearing noises. Actually, Makar killed the another merchant. Actually, he wanted to kill Aksionov that night, but what happened? Unexpectedly, Makar hears some noise. After hearing the noise, he left the blood knife in Aksionov's bag and left Aksionov. So Aksionov forgives Makar. Aksionov forgives Makar because he accepts the truth and attained self-realization and died in peace. So Aksionov forgives Simnoch and feels as if a terrible weight has been lifted. A terrible weight means here accusing the murderer. Makar Simnoch confesses, admitted to the authorities, and possesses for Aksionov to acquitted begins. However, Aksionov dies before he can release it. This is the lesson of the God sees truth but waits. But in this lesson we have to know the temporal things. Temporal, T-M-P-O-R-A-L, temporal things versus spiritual things. Actually, which one is great? Actually, every human being thought that temporal things are, we give important temporal things. We buy a good house, we try to buy fridge, ACs, give importance to luxurious things. These are the temporal things. Actually, temporal things are not permanent. Cell phone is not permanent, TV is not permanent. These are the temporal things. So what are the spiritual things? Speaking truth is a spiritual thing. Praying the God is a spiritual thing. And service to the mankind is a spiritual truth. So these are the spiritual things. So spiritual things are eternal or permanent. Spiritual things are the permanent or eternal. So through this lesson, Leo Tolstoy shows the difference between the temporal things and spiritual things. Actually, at the beginning, Aksionov is defined including his business and his home, but also his family and his freedom. So, in the beginning, he is defined through actually he has a business. Business is a temporal thing. Freedom also is a temporal thing. He is a home and business, family, everything is a temporal things. So at the beginning, Aksionov is defined through the temporal things, including his business, freedom, home, and family. First thing, he is a merchant. Aksino is a merchant, and he has two shops. He has two shops and a house. And a house. So his own, for of his own. For the things which we are seen are temporal. Actually, all these things we are seen. We can see. We can see all these things. But these are the temporal. These are the temporal things which we cannot see, which we can't see. Things which we can't see are eternal or spiritual. This is the important. So, Axino losses his business, home, family, freedom. Everything is lost. But God remains. But God remains at his side and knows the truth. But God remains at his sides and knows the truth. So, through this lesson, whatever we can see is our temporal things. What we can't see is are the eternal things or spiritual things. This is the summary or story of the God sees the truth but waits. Okay. Thank you one and all.